There's a ton of movement on Auburn's coaching staff. Look, this is normal. Don't freak out.
Listen, put me in the parking lot, with Bears, and I'll go out there and play. It don't matter.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Broadcasting today from a mystery state. Comment if you're watching on YouTube down below. Which state do you think I'm in? All right, so a lot of changes throughout Hugh Freeze's new coaching staff, right? Some surprising, some not surprising. I think the most surprising is he has moved on from wide receivers coach Ike Hilliard. I've seen a bunch of people upset about this. I wouldn't say I'm shocked, but I was kind of leaning towards I could see him possibly staying. He is not. He is moving on. And that is Hugh Freeze's choice. Everyone right now is gone with the exception of Carnell Williams, who we now know is associate head coach and running backs coach, Zach Ethridge, and C-Rob, Christian Robinson, the linebackers coach. That doesn't mean they're definitely part of the staff. It sounds like it's a maybe, right? It sounds like they've spoken. It sounds like interest has been expressed on Zach and C-Rob's point of view, saying, hey, we want to be at Auburn. We want to stay here. But that issue, that hasn't been issued as far as, hey, you have a spot on next year's staff. We talked about this on the live show. Zach Ethridge, I believe, needs a place on this next staff. Recruiting is obviously a big part of this. And also, what position group do you think improved the most over the course of the season? It's the DBs. It's the DBs. It's the defensive backs. It's not even close. And you can even break it down to the corners improved. DJ James got better. Nehemiah Pritchett got better. The safeties improved. Jalen Simpson got better. I think Donovan Kaufman was improving, and then unfortunately he got injured. So there's what's not to like about keeping Zach Ethridge. He's also the best recruiter on the previous staff. He was over recruiting. He got that tag so he could get that raise of recruiting coordinator. And look, Hugh Freeze loves recruiting. He's going to have his hand in it, but you need somebody over it. And I think Zach Ethridge could still hold that torch and carry it, be a great transition piece from the Harsin staff to the Hugh Freeze administration and Hugh Freeze era. The C-Rob stuff is interesting. I actually thought, I guess you could argue he got dealt a bad hand, but the linebackers probably underperformed more than any other unit. They weren't the worst unit, but we kind of thought that would be a strength, right? Led by Owen Papo. We thought Wesley Steiner would be better. He had a rough year. He had a few really, really rough moments, but we thought Owen would take that next step, and he did get better over the course of the season, right? His Iron Bowl performance was probably his best performance of the year. I talked to some of his teammates off the record, and they all agreed. So we'll see what happens there. Christian Robinson kind of got dealt a bad hand, and when it comes to the recruiting front, you look at the timing of when he came in, then the stuff in February happened, and obviously it was hard to recruit anybody to Auburn after that. Still, the staff did what they could, but yeah, Christian Robinson, a guy that I'm a little surprised he's on the list and hasn't been let go yet, but I think he could do a good job, right? All the reasons where we talked him up when he was at Florida, he could do now. And it's also just a little added bonus here. It sounds like Hugh Freeze and C-Rob, they've got a relationship there. So that's nice. But yeah, Schmetting is gone. That's not surprising at all. Brian Hartline is gone. He's taken a role at, where was it? Charlotte. He's a passing game coordinator at Charlotte. Good for him. And then, of course, Will Friend. I don't think that's too surprising, even though his play calling towards the end of the year was nice, but it's not going to find a role in Hugh Freeze's staff. So Jimmy Brumbaugh, not surprising. I saw a few people surprised that Rock Bellantoni, the edge recruiter or the edge coach, because of his recruiting, was enticing. It was interesting. I think he was good at that. But I don't know how much of Auburn's pass rush was successful because of him, or how much of it was you had Derek Hall, Ekuliota for the first half of the season, Marcus Bragg, who I think was a pleasant surprise. Maybe Rock brought that out of him. Maybe. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But regardless, Hugh Freeze is not retaining any of those guys. So we'll see. I want the three guys that have not officially been let go to stay on staff. I would like C-Rob to stay on staff. And obviously, very, very high on Zach Ethridge. I think he's a future defensive coordinator. I think he's a future stud in this league. So we'll see what happens after all of that. People I talked to, though, I mean, it sounds like Hugh Freeze is getting after it. Late at night, still focusing on his staff, making a ton of calls, using his agent, Jimmy Sexton, who represents a ton of people, using his connections throughout all of college football and throughout the Southeast. I think this is going to be a pretty good staff when it's all said and done. I do think he will bring some people with him from Liberty, and there's some off-field roles that he's brought over. I'm not going to get into that, but I would not be shocked if there were some Liberty coaches that came with him, and we'll see what exactly that looks like. I'm actually getting a text right now about a new defensive line coach, Jeremy Garrett. Oh, that's hilarious. It looks like he's from Liberty. So that's not official. I'm not reporting that, but that's funny, the timing that somebody sent me that. Somebody that's very close to the program. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. I want to talk about the defensive coordinator hire, though, because over the first few shows, this name kept popping up and I was dismissing it. Since then, I have been sold on the idea of this defensive coordinator coming into Auburn and leading the defense. I'll tell you who, and I'll tell you why, coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Bet Online. It is the best place to wager on all of your sports action, more props, odds, and lines than ever before. So be sure to check out our friends at Bet Online. Bet Online is where the game starts. I want to talk about Arkansas defensive coordinator Barry Odom. I was not high on him early in this process. The first several times I heard his name, I dismissed it because Arkansas stunk on defense. Historically bad in the passing game. So I got some notes from John Neighbors, host of Locked On Razorbacks, and I'm like, do you think Barry Odom is a good defensive coordinator? And he said yes. And I'm like, great. Tell me why. Tell me why. And let's keep in mind here, this is a former SEC head coach. And so we're all kind of assuming when Hugh Freeze hires a DC, he's going to give them the keys and give them leadership of this defense. And so if you can lead a program, while he wasn't great at Missouri, he still led an SEC program. You got to think he'll be able to lead an SEC defense. I'm going to read what John Neighbors shared with me. He said injuries in the secondary at Arkansas was the biggest part. Losing Catalan the whole year made a major difference. Losing Bishop, who played a ton the year prior, for the year as well. Other key guys were banged up. Multiple guys sat out games. It was super thin in the back end, and there was little experience. That was the biggest difference. Also, because of that, it took forever for the Hawks to finally gel into their best positions well into the season. He goes on, but something else that I said when I was talking to somebody a few nights ago, since I've kind of turned on this idea of Barry Odom, was that he was kind of the first defense. Arkansas was the first defense to limit Ole Miss, to limit Lane Kiffin, a guy that we've talked about a ton on this show. Arkansas shut him down. And then what happened in the Egg Bowl? They copied his scheme. They did the same thing that Arkansas did. And to me, that says something. We talked about this a little bit when Derek Mason was here. Not a little bit. We talked about it a ton. We drove it into the ground that offseason, where it's like, man, he had to scheme. He had to out-scheme everybody to compete at Vanderbilt. Barry Odom had to do a similar thing at Missouri, right? He's a great schemer. The more people I talk to about Barry Odom, the more they talk about how good of a schemer he is, how good of an X's and O's coach that he is, and they believe that he could be a really solid defensive coordinator here at Auburn. So I love that. To me, that gets me fired up. I still think I would pick Charles Kelly first, but I would be very excited about a Barry Odom hire as defensive coordinator. That's just kind of where I am with all of this. I'm going to go ahead and get into the next segment. Zep Jasper, Auburn guard, joins us. Today's show will be a little bit shorter. I'm limited. I'm literally like sitting on the ground right now recording this. And to be honest, I think the internet connection is kind of wonky. So we'll see. We'll see. Bear with me. I should be good to go by Friday's show, but little odd situation here. Sorry about that. I just knew I couldn't pre-record, right? I couldn't pre-record because I knew all these guys were going to be let go. And I think by the time we record for Friday's show, we'll have even more news on the coaching staff. Hopefully good news. Hopefully exciting news. So we'll see. Zep Jasper joins us in a second. But first things first, got to tell you about our friends at Alumni Hall. If you're not in the Auburn, Opelika County area, go to alumnihall.com. They've got all kinds of Auburn gear that you want to sport throughout this basketball season. Also, odds are you have a family member that loves Auburn if you're watching this show. Head over to alumnihall.com or go to Alumni Hall in Tigertown in Opelika. It's a great store. The customer service there is fantastic. The prices are great. You know when you buy something, the quality is going to be there because it's all officially licensed by the university. It's second to none when buying Auburn gear, and it's second to none when you're buying Christmas gifts this holiday season for the Auburn fan in your life. So check it out, alumnihall.com, or go to the brick and mortar store in Tigertown. Alumni Hall, thank you for partnering with Locked On Auburn. As he does every week here on Locked On Auburn, Auburn guard Zep Jasper. Man, Sunday, what a close win. You guys rallied, came from behind in clutch fashion against St. Louis. And Zep, this is a pretty good team that y'all beat.
Oh, yeah. I had been looking at a lot of little things on internet, from Twitter to Instagram. A lot of people don't understand how good St. Louis was. I looked at it coming to the game. If St. Louis would have beat us, they would have been ranked top 25 this day on Monday, this Monday morning. And a lot of people said, oh, we struggling. We did this. We shot bad. We didn't do this. They got to understand, St. Louis is going to be in a tournament this year. They're going to be top in their conference. They're going to fight out Dayton to win that conference this year. And I give hats off to St. Louis, their players, their coaching staff. They're a great team. That's why I give hats off to them. But, we rallied back, came out with the win. We stayed focused. We had key guys to win the game. I thought KD was the reason why we won that game last night, being that spark for that last 2 minutes, 30 seconds. He just with us to the win. And, I appreciate him for doing that, to not be scared, but just live in the moment and go hard, and try to get us to win.
Zep, a big talking point from national talking heads in the college basketball world, and I guess regional folks that cover college basketball throughout the SEC, have pointed out the lack of ranked opponents and the lack of big games in y'all's non-conference schedule. And obviously you have no say over that. You have no control over that. But what's the conversation like in response to that in the locker room? Because like you said, Colgate probably would have been ranked if those last 2 minutes would have gone differently and gone their way. What do you guys talk about that at all?
We really don't really talk about it, but we know people out there talking. We know ESPN broadcasts and all these other guys, they talking, saying Auburn ain't playing nobody. But when you look at it, you had these quad 2 wins, quad 1 wins. At the end of the day, the KenPom is the main thing that really you got to focus on. And so when we win, we look at KenPom. We don't really look at ESPN and all those other guys. We just trying to win. We don't have nothing to do with the schedule. So, we play these big teams. We just want to show up and show everybody that we one of the best teams too also. But, I know a lot of people don't want to sit at the top. It's people who root for you when you're winning. But, actually in life, they really want you to lose. And a lot of people don't want Auburn to be on top. And that's all it is.
Zep, what was your biggest takeaway from the week in Cancun?
My biggest takeaway was, that was our first game on the road. First road games, first two. Bradley was a good team who run good sets, coached by a good coach. They're gonna be top in their league. Northwestern was a team full of veteran guys. We knew that game was gonna be tough. They started the season off right. It's like the past 3 years, they've been the same team. And they ain't been at the bottom. It's like they're trying to get to the top now. It's like we the biggest ranked opponent they're gonna face all year.
Right.
That was their biggest game. So we knew they was gonna come out, pretty tough. And, it was like a football score, I think it was like 42-43 or something like that. But, it was a defensive game. We came out with a win. We were just pretty happy to come back from Cancun, with 2 wins. You don't never want to go to a tournament 1-1, but we was pretty happy, that we came out with a win and we had a good time.
That Northwestern game, I mean, Zep, do y'all chalk it up as a defensive game, or was it just a night where like the defense was good, but the 2 offenses, I mean, the shots just weren't falling as both teams were away from their home arena, or do you guys think it was a defensive effort?
Well, I look at it like it was a little bit of defensive effort because they hold people, under the amount of points they usually get. But I thought it was the offense. The offense is really off. Shots weren't going in. We're shooting like 19% from the field. Like, that really ain't look them like football numbers. Like, you ain't gonna do that every night.
Yeah.
So I really looked at it like, we had really played a game that night before. People's legs probably had been, a little dead. Like playing defense. You need your legs in the game, and you just could tell, like, guys was missing open shots. Guys was driving and they had that pop against them. But, we train for things like this, and we knew at the end of the game that, those guys only played 7 guys, and we played 10 to 11 guys. So we knew we could have more pop than them at the last 2 minutes of the game.
So you guys play Colgate on Friday. I guess the biggest question is, are you allowed to use Colgate toothpaste this week if you're an Auburn fan?
No Colgate this week. You gotta go
use Crest.
You gotta use Crest this week. You gotta use another brand. We can't use Colgate.
Oh, that's funny. It seems like we play them every few years, which is funny. Their record's not particularly impressive. Zep, you got them at home. I mean, is it tough in situations like this to look at this team coming in and it's like, all right, we've really got to focus on this team and treat it like this game like it's everything. Is that a tough mental battle that you guys have to do? Or at this point in your college career, are you able to do that?
Well, I look at it like this. Every game you really got to focus on. You got to focus on the games that really matter. I think these games matters the most. These are the games that, those guys on Colgate, they're going to get up for. They probably, their parents probably never seen them play a ranked opponent before. That make a guy happy in the inside, having a good game against Auburn, the number 13 ranked team in the nation. Just having your parents watching on TV, having your parents in the stands. That's what these guys get up for. And I feel like, as a team, we got to get up. We got to get up for those guys too, because those guys coming here to play basketball. They guys coming here to win. And I think of it like this, like, each opponent gonna look at us and say, we can beat those guys. Mm-hmm. I think we have a chance. But as us, as being Auburn, we got to show them that we're Auburn. We can step up our game too.
Has anything surprised you, Zep, about this team so far? Obviously, still early in the season. Obviously, conference play has not started yet. But what has anybody or anything surprised you so far about this team?
Well, I really haven't had a lot of surprises so far because I think we still building, still really getting to know each other. Mm-hmm. We still got a lot of work to do. As a lot of people see, as we see too. I still think we haven't reached our peak yet. I still think we got a lot of things to work on, from defense to offense. It's just a lot of stuff that we're gonna build on and we're gonna get better at each day, each week. You're gonna see we improve, we're gonna climb. And I'm a firm believer in climbing the mountain. And I feel like we're at the bottom of the mountain right now.
Bottom of the mountain as far as just at this point of the season, and you guys are focusing on going up. Is that what you mean?
Oh, yeah, because like I say, last year, I always speak on it. Last year, we was at the either the middle of the mountain or the bottom of the mountain, but we climbed. We showed people that we could do it. A lot of people ain't believe in us, but we showed them. We made them believe in us. We showed them that Auburn was a blue blood. They ain't think we was a blue blood. They ain't think we could do this. But we showed them. We did it.
What have you thought so far about Johni Broome? Looked like he was struggling with his ankle a little bit in the exhibition game in the first few games of the season. It seems like he's a lot more healthy. Seems like he's getting more pop. I think from an efficiency standpoint against St. Louis, it wasn't his greatest game. But what do you think the upside is for Johni Broome?
Well, Johni coming from Moorhead, he was behind the mountain a little bit. He had, when he first came here, he had to learn a lot of little things, a lot of little details. A lot of people don't look at it like that because they look at it, oh, he averaged this, he averaged that. But you're in the SEC now. You're going against a lot of great guys, a lot of great big men. You got the Castleton from Florida, you got Oscar Sheway, you got Tennessee guys. And he knows it's a tough conference. He knows he got to get better every day. He knows that, he got more room to improve. And he's learning. He he'd improved so much. He done learned so many little things and so many little details. And I just think of it like this, he's going to improve. He's going to improve. And I think of it as, he done got a lot better. A lot better. I'm happy for him. I'm proud of him because, a lot of people don't look at him and say, oh, he's one of the best big men in the SEC. We got Oscar Sheway. But he's going to prove those doubters wrong.
Sure.
He's going to make them believe in him. And he's going to make them say, that Johni Broome guy's going to be a pro.
Yeah, so I know this is a weird question because your role in offense has changed a little bit from a year ago. I mean, you were pretty much the point last year. Now you're doing a lot more off-ball stuff. Mm-hmm. But when you look at him as the big man in the middle, how do you guys treat him as guards taking it down the floor or potentially passing it in the paint? How do you guys treat Johni offensively different or the same as you did Walker a year ago? What's the difference? What are some similarities there?
Well, they're a lot different. Walker Kessler, 7-footer, block left, right hand. When you went against Walker Kessler, he just had that authority about him. You didn't even want to go in the paint when you seen Walker Kessler. You had guys like, oh, I'm not going in that paint with him. Whether Johni, he's a lot different. He'll get you on your toes where you go in the paint. You might not know he'll block it, but he'll block it. Mm-hmm. But Walker's not really a back-to-back guy who bang you in and throw a hook. He's one of those guys, pick and roll. You throw a lob, he's going to go get it. He's going to dunk it. And you better get out the way because he's catching that thing. But when Johni Broome, he's a guy who, great touch, great feel, back to the basket, spin left, spin right, jump hook. He's one of those guys who do that, but also can rebound, do other things too. But they're a lot different in many ways. I thought that was a great question you just asked me.
Yeah. Does that impact how the guards are going to play on the perimeter as far as offensive rebounding, which you guys have done a great job on offensive rebounds? Is that because of the way the center play is shifted? Or are you and Wendell and KD just better at rebounding than opposing guards so far this year? I mean, what does that dynamic look like?
Well, we all knew with Walker down there, Walker was going to get the rebound. Last year, Walker was unbelievable. I thought he was a key piece to our team. No one never said it, but he was the key. He was the guy we pressed up in those guards, and we knew they went past us. Oh, we'll just get to Walker Kessler. He'll block it. He'll save us. Yeah. So this year we know we got to box out, really come physical, and try to get the rebound. We practice on that every day to be physical. Make sure our opponents don't try to push us around. Like BP told us yesterday, this is gonna be a street fight. He literally told us it's gonna be a street fight. I don't care what. If we get in a fight, I don't care what you do. So, having your coach tell you that, and you're a tough guy, it's I'm down, man. I'm riding with you, coach. Yeah. Let's do it. Whether I got blood on my face, cheek tip, my teeth fall out, I'm down. I'm ready.
If you, Zep, if you had to go into a street fight with one other player on the roster, you could bring one guy on this roster with you, one teammate with you, who you bringing?
Ooh, I got two in mind. I got Allen Flanagan and KD Johnson.
So I actually thought you were going to say Chris Moore.
I can, but I'm like, I want somebody. I want somebody crazy with me too, you know?
Totally. Yeah.
So like it's out of them two. I won't be able to think, but like
so either Katie or Al?
Katie or Al, like one of them. I ain't gonna lie, that's a good question right there. Like that's one of the best questions I done had this year. Like that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, Zep, hey, best of luck. Congrats so far on staying undefeated, and best of luck on the season moving forward. We'll talk next week, bud.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Zep Jasper for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow, and you can find all of our written work at auburndaily.com. Until then, this has been Locked On Auburn.